Hi, I'm Jonathan Williams, ALEC Chief Economist and Executive Vice President of Policy. Today, we're coming to you from the ALEC annual meeting in Salt Lake City, and I have the pleasure of talking with my friend Senator Ben Hansen from Nebraska, who just really accomplished a huge taxpayer-friendly policy this year around an issue that we all care about, the issue of property tax burdens and overtaxation. So tell us a little bit about kind of overall what you did in Nebraska this year on the truth in taxation idea.
This year, well, first of all, it was a culmination of events, right? The desire of having it, with constituents, with the state, with other senators. We had a portion of it passed with a bill that Senator Lou Ann Linehan, who's the chair of our Revenue Committee, passed in 2019. That was the first portion of truth in taxation, which made political subdivisions more accountable. When they increased their property tax asking, they had to be now responsible to make sure that the more revenue they took in because of increased assessments, they had to lower then their levy. My portion was then to make sure we have informed consent now with the consumers, which is kind of the other half of truth in taxation, similar to what Utah and other states have done. And Utah really we took as a model for what we wanted to do. But we just had to piecemeal it together because we brought it all in one big giant package. We knew it wasn't going to work with the other senators. And so we kind of brought it together in certain steps, and my part was to making sure that when a political subdivision did increase their property tax asking, then the constituent then, or the property taxpayer had to be informed through a postcard, right? And so the postcard, in very simple terms, says information about your property tax increase. Here's the political subdivisions, whether it's your school or your county or your city. This is what your property taxes were before. This is what they're asking to increase them by. And this is what your new property taxes are going to be about now. Very simple, plain language that everybody who pays these taxes will get in their mailbox. And I think it's a big thing, especially in this day and age of a lot of distractions, Netflix and Facebook, and so it's hard sometimes to pay attention, let alone to go to all these budget hearings that these political subdivisions hold. So now, we're trying to give people informed consent about what these political subdivisions are doing, how they're raising their taxes, and then, which I think is the great part, now they have one hearing where all these political subdivisions who are increasing their taxes have to go to, or at least send a representative to, that says, this is why we're increasing our taxes, this is by how much, and then it gives the people a chance to talk about it then too, before they set their budgets. And so you're hoping then, you put the ball in the people's court, now they have the power to create change, right? If they don't have the knowledge base, or if they don't know what's going on with their taxes, let alone knowing what a levy is and increases and overrides and revenues, this puts in plain, simple language, then now the people will have the power to create change, which is what we want, right? I mean, so as much as we want to do stuff as politicians, it's really up to the people to make sure that they create the change that they're looking for.
Well, it's a great policy that empowers taxpayers and gives them real transparency and creates some accountability around this issue. As we look across the country, rising housing values and the assessments and property tax bills, this is really a high-tier issue for so many of the legislators that we talked with here this week, even in Salt Lake. You mentioned Utah. We're here in the birthplace of truth in taxation. They've had it on the books since 1985, if I remember right. Also, earlier this year, your neighbors to the south in Kansas went before you and adopted their version of truth in taxation, overwhelmingly, then signed into law by Democrat Governor Laura Kelly. So tell us a little bit about, how did that influence the discussion around Lincoln and your sponsorship of the bill as you moved it forward? What did your colleagues think of the Kansas experiment?
Well, that gave us some confidence, I think, in knowing that the people did want this. I mean, Utah passed it, and I think some other states even passed kind of a portion of it or certain parts of it, but Kansas really did take the lead there and actually incorporate the whole part of truth in taxation, very similar to what Utah did. And so that gave us as Nebraska some confidence saying, look, there's some people in the Midwest especially who are looking for this kind of stuff. And so that kind of even gave us some good arguments to our colleagues saying, look, Kansas just did it. There's no reason why we can't as well. I mean, this isn't an obscure idea. This is what other states are looking for, and this is what the people are craving. And I got a lot of emails and a lot of voters who are saying, yes, give us information, let us do the work too. So
that's great. Did you have? I mean, it was an overwhelming vote in Nebraska in the unicameral to support your bill. Did you have really even any organized opposition, and how did you overcome any of the arguments that might have been out there?
Yeah, good question. We did. In the end result doesn't look so bad, But when we first brought the bill, there was definitely a lot of fight. The counties and the cities, the community colleges, the public school systems did not want this, right? Because it gave the taxpayer information that sometimes is easy to put in the back of a newspaper in the public notice section about a little hearing that you're going to have. This puts it in plain language about what they are doing now. And so, you can see why they don't want it sometimes too. And it does create a little bit of work on their end to send information to the county and then maybe send somebody to the hearing. It's not really that much work. It's not that much of a burden fiscally for them either. It's just information that sometimes they don't want to share. And so there's a big fight with that. But we did work with all of them. I mean, there were some things that they wanted and some things that we kind of wanted, along with other senators. So we tweaked it a little bit, but keeping the overall idea of the bill, we maintained that throughout the whole process. And so at the end, the counties and the cities came out neutral. The schools came out neutral, and in the Senate, passed it overwhelmingly. I think it's 42 with no votes, and so that worked very well. So I was pleased to see that camaraderie, I guess, a little bit, and so.
In this day and age, we could use that a little bit more in Washington, D.C.
right?
as well.
Yeah, a lot of that. So, but yeah, we were fortunate enough, and it took a lot of work and a lot of elbow grease, but it came out in the end very well.
So that's great. And so I guess finally, tell us a little bit about the timeline, right? Because this is usually a piece of legislation is a work in progress. You had this as kind of a second phase to something our friend and ALEC Chair Senator Linehan had kicked off a couple of years ago. You took it to this phase, and then maybe tell us what might be ahead even of things you'd like to add going forward.
Yeah, I think right now is accountability. I think holding now these public entities and these political subdivisions accountable now to do this. I think that's kind of what we ran into a little bit with Senator Linehan's bill, is we weren't seeing, there was not much teeth to it, right? They found ways to kind of get out of it. They found ways to not be a part of it. And so now the second portion that I passed does have a little more teeth to it, saying if you do not follow these rules, you might risk state funding. And so we'll see how it goes. Time will tell, you know what I mean? And so I'll know more in the next year or two how things are going to pan out. But right now, we're also working with even kind of our local and national think tanks, such as the Platt Institute, Americans for Prosperity, to make sure that we can now give, in simple form, to these political subdivisions the timeline they need to do it. Here's what you need to send off. So they have the right instructions to do their job now. I think that's the follow-up we need to do. And then we'll see. If we need to kind of go through here and tighten some things up and change some things, make them more accountable, we'll have to. But I'm hoping not, and things will work out in the end. But
well, that's great, and congratulations again on a huge pro-taxpayer victory. And we've got some great case studies now on this as people think about addressing property tax burdens back home as one of the top issues. Always polls 70-80% support of this type of thing that I've seen. We've got the ALEC model that was based on Utah. So if you're interested, ALEC.org, check out the ALEC model, Truth in Taxation. Check out the Nebraska model that was sponsored by Senator Hansen, and also the Kansas model. Overwhelming support, bipartisan, good public policy. Just really excited about this. So thanks again, and congratulations on your big win. And for ALECtv, this is Jonathan Williams signing off with a very good property tax reform idea.